Hey guys, I'm very pleased to welcome Don Shin. Welcome to the video. Don is a senior developer for Bitcoin Private and he's in the core team. And we're going to talk about an announcement today from Bitcoin Private. And I can show this on the screen just now. It's Community Update 10, our plans for proof of work. So I'll link to this article for everyone to see. And just scrolling down the article, Don, it talks about basically like the existing Equihash algorithm is 209. And there's coins like Bitcoin Z, SafeCoin. There's a few other coins that are going to the 1445 parameter. Also mentions 1927. But in the meantime, I believe Bitcoin Private is still going to basically just kind of hold off just now because you're working on a rebase. You're doing a lot of development in the back. You're offering Segwit support and you're implementing the Lightning network. So am I summarizing that right? I'm kind of just paraphrasing what's in the article. I'll link to the article so everyone can see this in full. But essentially what you're saying right now is that you're not moving from Equihash right now.
That is correct. I think that you summarized it well. I think that in short, we are going to hard fork, but we're not going to do it now. And the reason for that is because we are in a unique position as a team. We've already are in the midst of a major rebase effort, and we don't want to disrupt that. And so we wanted to, you could almost consider this as a partial announcement where we wanted to communicate to the community that the ASIC situation is serious, and it is something that we've heavily invested in terms of research and due diligence. So we are going to do it, but we also have to do it in light of what we're already doing at the moment.
I think I saw kind of a similar feeling coming from Zcash and a few other coins. I mean, this was a bombshell, the best way to put it, as far as Bitmain announcing the Z9 Mini. And we've seen other coins with different algorithms, react the same way, like Monero and all that. But it was kind of a bombshell because it was like a ticking time bomb as soon as they announced that, because everyone was like, right, what are we going to do? And a lot of teams, I think it is easier. Like, I'm not a pure technical guy. I did do a little software development in the past, but I wouldn't say I'm a technical guy. But reading between the lines, it does seem it seems a little easier for the new coins to kind of move than it does for established coins that have got maybe a larger network. But what you guys are trying to do, like my idiot explanation of Segwit is that it kind of splits up the transaction and it kind of splits up, sends some information. It basically allows it for scalability, isn't it? Is that it allows it to scale higher because you're sending some information to another block? Is that?
Yeah. So
that's a very bad explanation. I know that. I've read about it, but I'm not explaining it well here.
Yeah. So I think that to touch upon the rebase from a high level, and what that will allow us to do is basically to adopt all the functionality in the main Bitcoin cryptocurrency. And so that includes Segwit, that includes Lightning, and that includes any future ongoing innovations that make it into Bitcoin. We'll be able to easily and efficiently incorporate that into Bitcoin Private going forward. So that is, I think, a part that people don't consider because they consider the features that are on the table. But just equally as important is that we'll be able to stay in alignment with the main Bitcoin source code going forward, because it's kind of a clean break from our past. And going forward, we're going to be heavily aligning ourselves to the Bitcoin source code. So
the Lightning network, that requires Segwit. How does that work? It's essentially a second layer of a network, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's essentially like a block. Does a block go to the other network and then it kind of comes back and then it's...
So on a practical level, with Segwit, it stands for segregated witness and allows for kind of a separation of metadata and transaction data such that you can fit more transactions within a block. That's really kind of like high level concept of Segwit. And then with Lightning, it allows you to start having transactions off the main blockchain in a kind of a semi peer-to-peer fashion that eventually reconciles and makes it back to the main blockchain, of course, because you got to have the main blockchain be the authoritative source of who has what. But what that essentially does is that it increases the pipeline for transactions. And so, with you've got a lot of people know about Bitcoin. A lot of people know about Bitcoin Cash. Well, Bitcoin Cash approach was to increase the block size tremendously, and the Bitcoin approach was to have transactions off chain to increase bandwidth and to be able to make transactions quick, such that cryptocurrency could eventually be used in real world use cases.
From a security point of view, how does the Lightning Network help then? Does it help at all with tackling these ASIC machines and things like that?
I don't know if I would make a strong connection between Lightning and the ASIC situation. I think with the ASIC situation, that has more to do with kind of our proof of work choice and how we go about the choosing of the algorithm. I think it just happened to be, frankly, an inconvenience in terms of timing that we've got ASICs emerging in the middle of our rebase. The rebase is going to open for us a world of opportunities to integrate into Lightning Network enabled apps and ecosystems, to be able to open the door to different forms of commerce and transactions, to have another level of interoperability with other Lightning Network enabled cryptocurrencies, to have atomic swaps. All those open up after we complete this rebase. And that is kind of directly in line with our vision to make Bitcoin private a real world use cryptocurrency that you can use for actual transactions that matter in personal life and in commerce. So that's the rebase. But it happens to be that we also now have these ASIC miners coming out, and we are a community-driven coin, and the community wanted a
response to it.
We're not only a community-driven coin, but we are also committed to the principle of decentralization. We touch upon that a little bit in the article, that we're not dogmatic about GPUs. We're not dogmatic about one technology over another. So, I think it'd be fair to say that the team is not pro GPU or pro ASIC. We're pro decentralization. And that's really important, because right now, I think it could be argued easily that GPU mining is the way to go if you want decentralized mining. 2 years from now, the situation might be different.
It might not even be 2 years. It could be sooner. The way the market's going is
it could be 6 months, but it's the principle that if there was a way to have good decentralized ASIC mining, then we would be open to it. I think.
I think it's a difficult situation, because I think if you're a GPU miner like myself, it's easy to look at your own rigs and your own setup and go, "Well, I'm going to lose out here." But from a security point of view, all this hash power coming from these Z9 minis and all these other machines that are coming out, it could be a good thing. So I've got some Bitcoin private coins. So full disclosure, I've got a few, not many, but I've got a few. So from a security point of view, and as an investor, the added hash rate would be good, because I think it's safe to say that the Bitcoin private hash rate has been a little bit lower than what we'd hoped over the last few months. We've talked about this in Discord, where this maybe ties into the block reward and other different things, maybe the price and other things, but maybe the hash rate was a little bit lower. And perhaps you could argue, this affects me, that it makes it, I'm going to get less of a return, but you could argue that from a security point of view, it's securing the network, these ASIC miners are helping. I've been trying to look at this from a lot of different sides. It is difficult though, because people with ASIC miners are very pro, ASIC mining, and people with GPUs say it's again decentralization. But you guys are in the middle, obviously trying to keep everyone happy. This is the thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's really important to remind ourselves of the principles. The principle is that we are pro decentralization. Right now, that still looks like GPU mining. And by the way, I'm a GPU miner myself. I'm not a large miner by any means. I've got about maybe 30 plus GPUs.
It's about the same as me, yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. Learned a whole ton over the past few months. And I think that's a good place to be GPU mining if you want decentralization. And by the way, personally, I'm not 100% convinced that ASICs are going to provide the hash power to secure the network, because at the end of the day, if ASICs become the de facto tool to provide hashing power, well, then the hashing rate might be higher, but everyone's relative piece of the pie is still the same.
Yeah,
And I think that like there's still platforms like NiceHash that allow for people to temporarily wield a lot more hashing power than what they might be able to personally do with their own equipment. And as long as that's the case, it's going to be very, very easy to kind of spike up your hash rate and do something or try to do something nefarious.
I mean, I do think like NiceHash has definitely been the source of a lot of malicious attacks, because I mean, you can send. I mean, I was actually playing about with it yesterday. I was kind of testing it because I'd used mining rig rentals before, and I wanted to know how NiceHash worked. And the amount of hash power you can send in just a few minutes is insane. It's you know, you can basically just take over all NiceHash miners and send them all to this, you know, to this one pool or this one coin. I think going back to what you were saying with decentralization, though, I think if you look at what all the Equihash coins, you know, how they were created and how they grew, I think, you know, Equihash was launched. It's obviously from I think it was a paper, ZK Snark's protocol or something, isn't it? Is that right? And Equihash was launched as an ASIC resistant coin. So because of that, every Equihash coin, you know, everyone who mined it was a GPU miner, you know, because it was launched as an ASIC resistant coin. So I think the problem that a lot of, you know, Zcash, Zencash, Bitcoin Private, all the Equihash coins, or could be formerly Equihash coins, is that it's difficult to even look at the practical side of whether you should embrace ASIC mining, because your whole user base, your whole mining base are GPU miners. So it's difficult to make the best decision. You know, just looking at this from an outside point of view, it's difficult to make the best decision for what's for the coin and the development and security of the coin and for investors, but not pissing off the GPU miners. Like,
totally. I mean,
I've seen this. It's not just Bitcoin Private. I've seen this in every community that you know that's been affected by this.
And that makes a lot of sense. Our entire mining community is GPU based right now, of course. But you know, I mean, it's important to realize that. How should I say this? Well, part of what the community update talks about is how we go about making decisions in the consensus of the council, of the core team. And we have a lot of different diverse opinions. Some of us are very firmly pro GPU, and some of us believe that it's only a matter of time before ASICs kind of take over the world and take over mining, and it's just kind of like a technological inevitability for that to happen. And then you've got people in between. I think that one of the things that we're trying to accomplish with these updates, and this is again the first of several, the next one is going to be on the Rebase, and of course we're going to have to eventually announce our final decision on what algo to change to, is to let people know, because miners have to think about their capital expenditures. They have to think about their investment in hardware, and that's not something you can kind of like change immediately. I mean, people have made, they've put in their equity into hardware. And if we've been talking about being an ASIC resistant coin, so what we're hoping these community updates would allow us to do is to say, you know what, we're going to still be GPU friendly, but we also want to let the community know that there may be a future, depending on what the technological landscape looks like in 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, where, there may be ASICs on the network. And people who, are spending money into their mining equipment need to keep an eye on the landscape, because whatever is most conducive to decentralization, that's where we'll go. If it's still GPUs in 2 years, then buy GPUs if you want to mine Bitcoin private. If it happens to be ASICs, because Intel gets into the scene and commoditizes ASICs or some other new market developments, keep an eye on that as well. But people are going to have to be nimble and on their toes.
like, do you guys have any kind of estimate as to when the Lightning Network, when this will actually be integrated?
Yes. So we're anticipating launching a new full node based on the Rebase effort in Q3. And so that's when the hard fork for the new algorithm is going to coincide with. And I think it's important to understand, for the community to understand how we're going to go about making this decision on a new algorithm. Decentralization is definitely going to be key. I think that we're also going to want to go to an ecosystem, of course, where there's going to be pool software readily available, miners readily available, whether we have to develop it ourselves or rely upon the community. We're going to want to move to something that, because we still believe that there's, I guess, it's not time yet to lead GPU mining. And so we're going to want something that's GPU mineable. ASICs might be able to mine it, but we want that performance differential between GPUs and ASICs to be minimal, if at all possible.
I think, sorry to interrupt, just what you were saying there, I think with what you're saying with Q3, I think the general consensus I've seen from GPU miners is that they're kind of in this limbo where basically for 3 months this, Bitcoin private might be ASIC, it won't be ASIC resistant. Mm-hmm. So they're going to see their returns drop because the difficulty is going to spike. And I think that the risk of that is obviously you're going to alienate a lot of your core supporters. If you react, it might be interpreted that you're reacting slowly, which I don't think is the case, because I've seen that Zcash are the same. They're waiting to the end of the year to actually implement any kind of change. Just try to play devil's advocate. I can see from the other side of the, I'm sure you can yourself as a GPU miner. If you're mining a coin and all of a sudden you can't even get accepted shares because the difficulty is too high, well, you might, someone then starts investing in another coin and then all of a sudden they're not hanging out in Discord as much. Maybe they decide to sell the coins, and it's very hard. It's very difficult. I don't have an answer to this because I think it's impossible to keep everyone happy. And it's like Bitmain's like hot potato, throw it in your lap and it's like you deal with it, and then you need to react. Yeah,
it's a really tough situation. I will say this, that there will be, because obviously there are coins that have started to make announcements, other Equihash coins that have started to make announcements. I believe one of them is going to start the hard fork maybe tomorrow, as soon as tomorrow. And so the community update was to let the community know we're not going to be the first to hard fork, and here's the thoughtful reason for why. And it was a hard decision, but we believe the rebase is worth it. So there's going to be a period of time where GPUs and ASICs are going to coexist. I say coexist because if you look at Bitmain's release schedule, there are a handful of people who have already gotten their ASICs, but the estimated ship date and reception date for these ASICs, the first batch is going to be at the close to the end of this month. Yeah. And then they've started taking orders for another batch, but that another batch is not going to ship, I don't think, until
August, September. Yeah, August, September. They reduced the price of that down to $850 as well.
I saw. And so by that time, yes, once that batch gets out there, there's going to be lots and lots of ASICs. So it's going to be rough approaching the launch of the Rebase. Hopefully we can stay focused on the Rebase and get it out there as quickly as possible. We consider Q3 from July, August, September. That's, Q3 for us. So hopefully we can get the Rebase out there sooner than later with the new algorithm. But that's why we think that there's at least a little bit of time for GPUs and ASICs to coexist.
Yeah. I think it's very difficult, Don. I think all the Equihash coins are in a very difficult position. And basically, going by what's said in the article and what you're saying today, basically you were faced with the decision, do we just fork right away and put all the work of the Lightning Network and all that in the background and delay that by 3 or 4 months? And one thing we've not really touched upon is the fact that a lot of these changes, these hard forks to from 209 to 1445 or 192, 1927. I'm not sure what they require. I know 1445 needs 2.5 gig. I'm not sure about 1927. But time will tell how long those actually last. I think, it's a game of cat and mouse. We might find that 1445, Bitmain are releasing a Z9 bigger version that's going to be 30 to 40,000 sols. That might be able to be modified or used that can tackle 145. We don't know at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it would be naive to think that moving to 1445 would be a full-time solution for the next few years. It could be fine for 6 months. It could be fine for a year, but we don't know. It could be even less than that. You don't know at this point. You really don't know.
For sure. I mean, I think that I will say this, that if the entire market, Zcash included, were to go to 144.5, then what you could see is perhaps maybe not an ASIC miner where the logic and the memory are on the same silicon, but what you could see is something like the Ethereum, ASIC miner, which is essentially a turnkey miner. Even if the logic and the memory are separate, it's turnkey such that it's a pretty efficient miner and low power consumption and generally low costs such that GPU miners can't compete. So there's no doubt in my mind that if the market were to incentivize it, and the market was large enough for 144.5 ASIC miners to be released to the market, that a company like Bitmain would do it. So I see the hard fork as really just buying time. It's really buying time, and how much time you get, that depends on your choice. And that's also a factor in our decision for choosing an algorithm. 144.5 definitely looks attractive. It looks attractive because a lot of other coins are doing it. That means there's going to be a healthier miner ecosystem, a pool software ecosystem, general support for it. But at the same time, that makes us a bigger target. It makes a bigger target.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say, because the more coins that are on a particular algorithm, the more reason Bitmain or any other ASIC mining company has to actually design something that can do that. Yeah. So if all the coins just jump from Equihash and they change it to Equihash 1445, then there's a demand to make a machine that can do 1445.
Absolutely.
And this is...
And there's also...
You can't win. This is the thing.
Yeah, and there's also demand for NiceHash to create a NiceHash profile for it. I mean, right now, NiceHash doesn't support Equihash.
And they will.
5, but of course they will if there's enough incentive for them to do so.
Sorry.
That's the pros and cons that we see with 144.5. And by the way, you may or may not be aware that we were actually one of the first teams to develop support for 144.5 within the full node source code, such that I believe there was another Equihash-based team that used our code, and we're fine with that. Happy to have that be our contribution to the community. The irony is that we may or may not choose 144.5 ourselves.
Yeah, I know that, like Bitcoin Z, I don't know if that's who you're referring to, but I know that Bitcoin Z renamed it Zhash, despite the fact there had already been a paper and all this code about it before. It's just, it's the same thing. It's just, to me, it's like Equihash 2.0, essentially. It's still like, in essence, it's still Equihash, in essence, just the parameters have changed.
Absolutely. And from what my understanding is that there may be some different small personalizations to make the 144.5 different, but it may not necessarily be different enough for a NiceHash profile or for an ASIC miner to not be able to tackle them all. We're looking at 192.7. In fact, one thing that I don't think we have yet publicized is that we actually have a working testnet running on 192.7. As part of our due diligence, we set up some pool software to be able to test that out and put it through its runs. So that's an attractive, and what's attractive about staying with Equihash, but with different parameters, is that it's a relatively easy change that's not going to drain our development resources too much. But, we might be able to buy ourselves some more time, or to have maybe a longer term choice. We've explored SHA-3 because It's rock solid. It's secure as a hashing algorithm, and it's endorsed by NIST. Of particular interest to me and a couple others is ProgPoW. And
that's something I need to look into more myself.
Yeah, I think
is that Ethereum? Is that Ethereum the one that designed that one? Is that Ethereum?
It is based on Ethereum's algorithm, but with some additional modifications.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting to me because, of course, someone could build an ASIC for it. But from what I understand, the goal of the project is to minimize the performance differential between the GPU running that algorithm and ASIC running that algorithm.
Make a level playing field, basically, just where, I mean, you could argue that you could do the same for CPUs as well,
I think that I think it's a good compromise. I think the thing that we're perhaps a little bit hesitant to jump on that bandwagon is that it's a relatively new algorithm, and it's not running in any coin right now, and it's still being developed on. The ecosystem around it, i.e. miners and pool software, is still being developed. And so we would either have to divert a good amount of our resources to help out with that, or we'd have to potentially put in something that's less tested and has not stood the test of time as other algorithms. And we're dealing with people's cryptocurrency. We're dealing with people's money here. So
I know.
There's definitely reason to be conservative about that choice. So those are the different things that we've been kind of debating. And again, we have a huge diversity of opinion on that. So that every week we kind of hash out new developments, how the landscape is changing. I think it's important for the community to understand that this has been a heavily debated topic that's taken a lot of energy in our time. So we haven't moved out of lack of concern. It's more out of establishing consensus and making sure that we tread carefully around this decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of summed it up well there, because it is very difficult. You can't keep everyone happy. This is the thing. Even I've covered this topic a lot recently, and someone said I've turned my back on GPU mining simply because I talked about the fact that ASIC mining machines are efficient. I was like, well, they're 300 watts doing what like 10 of my GPUs would do, like 3,000 watts.
I know, it's amazing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. It's like, I don't want to be a Luddite and reject technological advance.
But then I got someone else saying to me that I'm biased because I have GPUs, so I can't. I'm like, well, which one am I? I can understand why Bitcoin Private have did this. At the end of the day, you guys have put the Lightning Network as a priority because that's, it makes sense as far as the future of the coin. This update clearly is just a transparency report for the community, for everyone who mines Bitcoin Private, everyone who invests in Bitcoin Private. And that's the one thing I would say. I mean, the fact that says community update 10, you guys have been posting a lot of updates over the last few months as far as, different situations, as far as improvements with hardware and all that. Many thanks for your time, Don. I realise this is a difficult subject to discuss. A lot of people, I know from my side, I've approached a lot of people and say, hey, would you like to talk about this? And they're like, oh, no. They don't want to talk about it because it's almost like you can't win. It's almost like you can't win. So we're going to leave it there. I will leave a link to this article so you guys can check it out. Please do leave your comments below. Many thanks to Don, but Don's going to stick around with me. We're going to record another video and we're going to talk about exchanges. Not really specific to Bitcoin Private, I don't think. I think we'll just talk about general so that we both don't end up in court. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to get your insight into exchanges. So please stay tuned for that one, guys. Many thanks to Don again, and please do check out the article. Till next time, guys. Take care.